Around 1200 BCE, Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, saw the arrival of the Arameans, a Semitic people whose migration and settlement brought significant demographic changes to the region. The backdrop to this period was one of upheaval and transformation, with established city-states and empires like the Hittites, Egyptians, and Assyrians experiencing various degrees of decline and instability. This environment created a power vacuum and opportunities for nomadic and semi-nomadic groups like the Arameans to settle and exert influence. The Arameans originated from the Syrian desert and initially led a nomadic lifestyle, relying on herding and pastoralism. As they migrated into Mesopotamia, they began to settle in various parts of the region, establishing small kingdoms and tribal confederations. This influx brought about notable demographic shifts, with Aramean tribes spreading across northern Mesopotamia and parts of Syria, coexisting with and often challenging the established city-states. One of the key areas of Aramean settlement was the Upper Euphrates region, where they established numerous small states. These states, such as Bit-Adini, Bit-Bahiani, and Bit-Zamani, were strategically located along trade routes and fertile lands, allowing the Arameans to prosper and integrate into the local economy. Their presence significantly altered the demographic composition of Mesopotamia, introducing new cultural and social dynamics. The arrival of the Arameans was not always peaceful. Their incursions and settlements often led to conflicts with the existing city-states and empires. For instance, the Assyrian Empire, which was attempting to regain its former glory during this period, frequently clashed with Aramean tribes. The Assyrians viewed the Arameans as both a threat and a nuisance, as their raids and territorial expansions disrupted trade routes and challenged Assyrian authority. Assyrian kings such as Tiglath-Pileser, 776 BCE, conducted numerous military campaigns against the Arameans, seeking to subjugate them and secure their borders. Despite these efforts, the Arameans proved to be resilient and adaptable, often retreating to the desert only to return and resettle once Assyrian pressure waned. This cat-and-mouse dynamic characterized much of the interaction between the Arameans and the established powers of the region. The Arameans also made significant cultural contributions to Mesopotamia. As they settled and established themselves, they began to adopt and adapt elements of the existing Mesopotamian culture. They adopted the cuneiform script for their own language and contributed to the spread of the Aramaic language, which would later become the lingua franca of the Near East. This linguistic shift had a lasting impact, facilitating communication and trade across diverse ethnic and political groups. The integration of the Arameans into Mesopotamian society was a gradual process. Over time, they transitioned from a predominantly nomadic lifestyle to a more settled agrarian one. They established fortified cities and engaged in agriculture, trade, and local politics. Their kings and leaders often intermarried with local elites, further cementing their presence and influence in the region. By 1000 BCE, the Arameans had become a significant demographic and political force in Mesopotamia. Their kingdoms dotted the landscape, and their culture and language were deeply intertwined with those of the indigenous populations. The Assyrian Empire, despite its initial resistance, eventually incorporated many Aramean territories into its domain, using their settlements as buffer zones against other nomadic groups and external threats. The arrival and settlement of the Arameans in Mesopotamia thus marked a period of significant demographic change, characterized by conflict, adaptation, and integration. Their influence persisted for centuries, shaping the cultural and political landscape of the Near East long after their initial migration. The legacy of the Arameans is evident in the enduring prominence of the Aramaic language and the cultural syncretism that defined much of Mesopotamian history during this era.